Alright, so now we're going to look at the 4 rivers of Eden and also the land of Eden, the mind and the body. Alright, so here we have Eden. We're going to deal with 2 rivers. Right? So over here we have what we call dopamine. Now, how does this work? This works like a reward that motivates you to do something. However, sometimes we think about it. We want to get the reward before we take the action. No, it does not work like that. First, it is the action and then the fruit of the action, meaning fruit, meaning that which is produced. All right. So if the Most High says, do this, and you obey it, you do it, guess what? He says, all these blessings will come upon you. Right? So you have to first do, and then you get your blessing. Now, on the other hand, you have blessings that will come to you up front without you having to do a certain thing. And that blessing sometimes is really a blessing that is forbidden. Right? So when you're dealing with this dopamine, it works like this. Here we have the mind. Let's put it mind and body. This is a representation of the land between the rivers. All right. So first you take the action. Then the fruit of the action comes in. So the consequence does not come before the action. It's first the action and then the consequences come a period of time after, right? No, after this reward comes, you get a feeling of motivation, right? So you feel motivated to do what? To repeat the same action, and this cycle continues. Now, like I said, this can happen 2 ways. The Most High can tell you to do something, then you get your blessings, and then you are established in that. And you do it again, and it keeps going on and on. So he said, okay, plant this land, leave what is on the outskirts for the passers-by, and you give 1/10 of this to these people. And then guess what? Next time you see, you get more blessings. Everything's increased. So you feel motivated to keep doing that, to keep planting and give your offerings to these people. Right? Now, on the other hand, right, he said to Eve, from the tree in the midst of the garden, do not eat of it. Now, what happens in this case is that she did not understand what it means when he said, if you do it, you shall surely die. Because here now you have another river comes out of Eden. This one we call cortisol. What is this? This is like gas. This is like adding fuel to fire. Right? So it is now feeding this. So even when you want to pull out of something, you can't. Tell a smoker to stop smoking. Yeah, you pause for 3 or 4 days of it, or a week, and then you're back at smoking again. Meaning what? Now you're in bondage to that. You cannot stop yourself. You become now a servant. And now it become your master. You are subject to it. Right? So she didn't understand what it means. She only wanted that feeling of being as gods. Being as God. She didn't care about the consequences. She didn't care about what it means that you shall surely die. Because what? Here you have the intellect. The intellect is a part of the brain that helps you to discern, to let you know what is morally wrong from what is morally right. No, when stress gets in the way of your discernment, guess what? You don't care about what happens afterwards. You don't care if you're destroying the entire building. You don't care if you're destroying your family. All you care about is this moment and what happens right now. This is what I want, and this is what I'm going to get. And I'm going to do anything to get it. It doesn't matter what I have to rip apart. I'm going to do it because all I care about is no. What I want, no. Right? So this feeds this more. And it prompts you to act. And this is why you act impulsively in these situations, right? For example, because this is a stress hormone, it deals with stress, right? Now, for example, a person has his wife or her husband. What they'll do is they'll create stories in the mind, right? So the first thing is that they'll start talking about what is going wrong in their relationship. They start talking negative things about their partner. It is to feed that negative energy. All those negative talks is to feed that. So is what? Creating more and more of that. So when they're going to the opposite gender to speak all of that, guess what? They're gonna feel like they're being pitied. Oh, he really did that to you. Oh, he really treated you that way. If I was in his position, I would do this, I would do that. Guess what? All of that is a form of reward. And no, you cannot stop yourself from taking that action because that is exactly what it wants. So you think you are the one who's consciously speaking all these negative ways about your partner. No, it is not you. It is one of those rivers that is fueling that fire. But because of your inability to discern, guess what? You're acting now on the impulse. So whatever the impulse is telling you to do, that is what you're going to do. And you know what happens there in this case? When you have this and this happen? It now becomes what? An addiction. This is the place where a lot of relationships are being created from today, out of addiction. This person and this person getting together that shouldn't be together because it was not created out of the right place. It is just going to be another destructive relationship. It is an addiction. It's no different from a person choosing to smoke. Say you have a sleep, you cannot sleep. What you do at night is you take a smoke. You take a smoke. Okay, when will that cycle end? There is no ending to it because you are trapped in this cycle. You smoke, you get that feeling, and you feel motivated, and you go to sleep, and you wake up, and you go to do the same thing over and over. You are stuck in the cycle. You are a servant. So now you cannot stop yourself from smoking. You cannot stop yourself from drinking. You cannot stop yourself from doing all these things. You become a servant. You are in bondage. You don't even know what freedom feels like. Now you start to confuse your bondage for freedom. I remember back in my days, right? Before coming to this truth and being wild. Guess what? Sleeping around with all these women. At that time, I couldn't realize that I was in bondage. But for me, it was perceived as being free. So it's like this I am this empty vessel, taking all these women, put it in. But guess what? There is a hole at the bottom. They keep coming out, coming out. When would I have enough? But it is perceived as being free. I was in bondage to a desire that had no ending. Now I come to realize, I understand, and now I stop this cycle. Guess what? Now I am free. So when you wake up to the bondage and you can realize the bondage that you're in and you break that cycle, that is what freedom looks like. You are no longer doing things to obtain a form of a feeling. So when he says, "Ye shall not surely die," she didn't understand what he was saying, because what happens when there's too much stimulation? What happens when you get too much of one thing? Think of something that you like. Now think about getting too much of it. What happens? Now here's another example. There was this wheat cracker me and my friend we liked, right? And every day we had to buy two. Every time we had to buy two, buy two, buy two, right? And we really liked it. We just had to do it. After a period of time, guess what? We start to think that two is not enough. We bought an entire box. And what do you think happened? Before we even got to halfway in it, we don't even want to see the biscuit anymore. Overstimulated. So guess what? Where can I put it? Overstimulation kills the cell. So that's what happened in the amygdala. Too much stimulation, what? Now you kill that cell. So one thing, at one time, you were so intense or so impulsive about getting this thing, and now you don't want it anymore. That's what it means when he said, "Ye shall surely die." She didn't understand. So this is the same thing with our sin. And this is why we experience that regret afterwards. Because you're so fascinated by all these little things that lead up to the same reward, but as soon as you get that final feeling, guess what? You don't want it anymore. It's not stimulating anymore. Because what? It was only for the pleasure. That was what the scripture said. A tree that was desirable and pleasurable. It was pleasant to the sight. Sin is always pleasurable, and that is why it is called a forbidden fruit. In the world of the adversary, guess what? You don't have to obey him first to get your reward. The reward will even come first. As where the Most High is concerned, is very different. You have to first obey, then your blessings come, and that keeps you motivated to continue to do it. Right? Now, what is on the other hand of this other river? What is this river called? Serotonin. Almost similar to this one, but this is more balanced. Because guess what? You may like something, you may enjoy something, but you don't always want to do it again. You know when to stop. Not like this where you cannot control yourself, the impulse is too strong. There's an attachment to the desire. Over here is no attachment. So you do this, guess what? You are not doing it to seek fulfillment. So if you're doing something, you're more sharing, not trying to obtain, not trying to receive something, but you're more giving. This is where more love is. Because love is about that giving and that sharing. This is why he says man should not be alone. Because what? In this case, you share with others, but on the other hand, guess what? It it is more about yourself. So a man has his wife and keeps going to the clubs at night or wherever with his friends or by himself. That is not a good thing. It's pleasurable, and pleasure always come down in that same thing. When you want to share, guess what? You're going to go here with these people, your family, your wife, whoever it is. It's more open because it's all about giving. And this is why you see when it comes down to like adultery and things like that, it is done secretly. Because that's not something you're going to share with your wife or your husband. You're not going to tell your husband or your wife that, hey, I'm going to go with this guy or this girl, or hey, I'm having this type of conversation with this person or that person. No, it is more alone, and this is what it means. It's not good to be alone. So with this serotonin that is produced, not by the brain, but by the spirit itself, right? When it is produced, it is more about happiness. So on this side of dopamine, we deal with pleasure. On this side, it is more about happiness. You never get too tired of, you never get tired of happiness. You never get tired of giving and sharing. You can get tired of pleasure. No. Here we have the mind and the body. This is a representation of the land, the physical land, right? It's about the mind and the body. The body is an extension of the mind. I put it this way, it's an extension of the subconscious mind. This is whatever your thoughts are subconsciously, the body is more likely to manifest it. And if you're not aware, then that makes it even worse. Because at least if you're aware of something, you have the ability to change it. When you're not aware, you don't even have the ability. And this is why things can be risky when dealing with religious men. Why? Because they will be having sex with all these women and so convinced in their belief that what they're doing is God's work. So there's not even the slightest chance for them to change, because they're doing that in the name of God. Where is different, where a man that is aware can say, hey, I'm doing this with all these women, I know it's wrong, and I know one day I need to stop. You know, at least there's a potential because he's aware. With religious men, it's just like the sons of Eli doing all types of things with these women at the temple. It's the same today. You might not have a physical temple, but guess what? You do it in the name of Bible study, doing this, doing that, whatever form of help. Being overly generous to a woman, being overly helpful to a woman, so that at the end of the day, she gets what? Attracted to what you're doing, and then things happen. And then it doesn't last because it was not what? Sincere in the first place. Now, I made a video already about happiness, real happiness and objective happiness. This is one you try to obtain from objects. If I have this house, if I have this car, if I have this job, if I have this clothes, if I have this husband, if I have this wife, if I have this children, then I will be happy. No, this is what you seek, pleasure. because real happiness does not come from objects. You are seeking a feeling. You need all these objects to stimulate your limbic system so you can feel that sense of pleasure. But you cannot get enough of it, so you have to keep going back over and over. Endless pleasure. Real happiness comes from giving. There is no objects involved, and there is no need to stimulate anything. Now, what is the balance between the dopamine and the serotonin? You know what? This can kill itself, but it also kills this. So the more pleasure you seek, guess what? The more dopamine you have, and the more dopamine you have is the more you kill your spirit. So this deals with mind and body, which is ego. And this is why we have to crucify the flesh. We have to kill the desires of the mind, kill the desires of the body. So this can what? Survive. So this is where two things come in, which is very important in this spiritual walk. Repent, give up the desires of the mind and the body, and also take actions that will nourish your spirit. There are two separate roads that lead to one destination. Because if you're feeding your spirit, but you're not renouncing or repenting, at the end of the day, what? You're going to be mixing the old man with the new creature. And then this is where what you do or your ability to keep the law will be tainted. It will be infiltrated by desires. And this is where he speaks about the hypocrite in Matthew chapter 23. You appear spiritual on the outside, but inside you're filled with extortions, desires, all those creepy things. So I hope this gives an understanding of the four rivers of Eden and the land of Eden, how it relates to the human experience, mind, body, and the spirit. Shalom.